They had halted to pick rotting fruit, gather bamboo shoots, and pull edible roots from the ground. He knew his body, deprived of meat, grew weaker daily. And what of the people left behind? With 3 hunters to feed countless people, they too would be hungry for meat. The fire hunters could return the following day without game, or a day later, if a kind God willed, with deer meat. Storm hooted, signaling that he was ready to convey his decision. He, Courage, and Rainsky would follow the deer tracks. They would return before dark, whether successful or not. Snake and Axe would remain behind to guard the fire and captives. Any captive attempting to flee or remove a tether would be immediately killed. Storm waited while Pretty Mouse translated his orders and warning to the other prisoners. As he led 2 of his men in the direction the tracks indicated, Storm heard Birdsong's trill and permitted himself a private smile. She would not try to flee and leave her limping son behind. The stranger boy had learned many signs quickly and taught them to his mother. And Birdsong had taught them to make a useful carry tool with 2 poles, leather thongs, and the hide that had covered her pleasing body. She would be a good mate. Their coupling would be often and pleasurable. Storm worried about the time elapsing as they sought traces of the deer. The dense, shadowy forest made sighting an animal difficult. Twice the hunters thought they had lost the trail and were about to circle back when they came across warm dung. The sun was well past overhead when Courage pointed to a grove where a fawn stood nibbling on leaves. Her mother was sure to be near. As the men approached with growing excitement, what they now saw was a sizable herd. 3 does, 5 fawns, and a stag, grazing in a grassy area. With so many, the likelihood of returning with one had greatly improved. Silently, the 3 made their way through trees and underbrush. A single footstep, the crunch of dry leaves, inadvertently snapping a branch, could alert the prey to their presence. Then, even the most seasoned hunter couldn't predict whether deer would freeze in place, bolt, pivot, or leap in any direction. Storm signed to Rainsky, 6 paces to his left, and Courage, 8 paces to his right. They would attempt to cut the 2 does and a fawn furthest from the stag, from the herd. With luck, the rest would scatter, and they could concentrate on the nearest doe. There was always the chance one of her fawns would linger and could be killed afterwards. Both seasoned hunters, Storm didn't have to remind them to drop the extra spears each carried where they could be easily retrieved. Hoping the rustling of trees by the wind masked unpreventable noises, the hunters crept closer. Storm was 20 paces from the nearest animal when one of the fawns lifted its head, sniffed the air, and bleated, her pointed tail erect with fear. As the alerted stag halted, his ears turning to locate and assess the nature of the call, the fawn might be crying for its mother. One of the does bolted and unknowingly raced directly at Storm. To avoid a direct collision, he stepped back, steeling himself for the impact created by the force of her momentum against his spear. Deer were far stronger than their slender, graceful bodies and thin legs suggested. But right before reaching his weapon, she suddenly swerved, her rear ramming him with such force that he fell. Startled, the doe halted to stare at the unexpected object in her path. That brief pause allowed Storm to regain his balance and drive his spear into her neck, narrowly missing the jugular. Incensed, she reared and raked the air with her knife-sharp front hooves, the spear dangling from her side. Taunting her by waving his hands to prevent her fleeing, he ducked and bobbed to avoid her lethal flailing forelegs. Storm waited for the right opportunity, and when it came, he grabbed the